Hi, this is Kurt Stockwell with Well Dressed Walrus. We are a local website design and development company here in Spokane. What we do is build beautiful, usable websites for local businesses. A website needs to be beautiful, it needs to be usable for your users, your customers, and yourself. Contact us anytime. We'd love to talk with you about your online marketing.
Spokane listens when business talks. Welcome to Business Talks, the region's only local business talk show with your host, Ryan McNiece. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU and Well Dressed Walrus. Now, let's get down to business with Business Talks.
Welcome to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNiece, and we're here in the studio with Annalise Miller from the Washington State University Carson College of Business. Thank you for being here.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Annalise, actually, you have an extremely busy schedule, and we're so excited to be able to eventually get this scheduled to get you into the studio because you have an extremely compelling story. You came to Washington State with kind of a math and general business desire, but that led you to the entrepreneurial program at the Carson School of Business. And a piece that I find so fascinating about your story is I don't believe you traveled out of the country until you'd gone to Washington State, and yet you've been in 13 countries in 4 years, maybe more now?
I think 16. I had actually traveled to Canada and Mexico before coming to Washington State, but not anywhere outside of those three countries.
Well, it's an amazing story because go Cougs, I'm a Washington State University graduate, but your story is compelling to me because you're one of those examples that's really taken the opportunities that you've had, whether it's Washington State or any other university, and really turned that into some impressive experiences. Tell us about one of the first opportunities and experiences as one of the programs through the entrepreneurial grants, I believe, was you coming up with a pasteurizing tool, if you will, that was completely new to this type of industry. Tell us about that and how that experience came about.
Yeah, so I was part of the Harold Frank program at WSU, involved with entrepreneurship and engineering students. And so I partnered up with one of my cohort members, Victor, and we were I was really interested in international development and sustainable development and how entrepreneurship could play a role in that. Mm-hmm. And so we looked for different projects. We hadn't really decided what we wanted to work on until the Paul Allen School approached Marie Mays, the director of the center, and said, hey, we have this project in Tanzania. We're working with the Maasai people on pasteurization. Do you have any students that you think might be interested? And she said, I think I know someone.
So that they actually did somewhat bring an idea to you that this is something, or a problem, if you will, for you to solve.
Yeah, absolutely. They came to us and said, hey, we're doing this research. We've been working with the Maasai population. We believe that pasteurization has a link to antibiotic-resistant bacteria, and that if we can encourage pasteurization practices and safe pasteurization practices, that we can actually decrease antibiotic resistance within these communities. The difficult point for them is that a lot of these people are very against boiling their milk, but they're willing to pasteurize. However, to pasteurize milk, you need to know what temperature it's at, how long it's at those temperatures, and they're doing this within really dark huts, and many of them can't read thermometers or don't understand what they mean. So
why are they against the boiling?
So culturally, there's a lot of implications of boiling. Milk is very sacred for Maasai. They're a cow herding population. They think that boiling the milk breaks down all the things that makes them strong in it. So they think that it's less nutritious and it promotes constipation in children. And culturally, over the years, they just won't do it. They might tell you they will, but they won't boil their milk.
It's just not something traditionally
It's not something they'll do. And so getting them a tool so that they're able to pasteurize their milk is hugely important because then they're safely treating their milk and getting rid of all that bacteria. So we came to the table and said, okay, we need some sort of thermometer, some way for them, or some indication of that for them to understand when pasteurization happens. So we kind of came up with this very simple binary tool that not only allows them to know when the milk is pasteurized and take it off of the heat, but also has a data collection aspect for the researchers so that they're able to prove a correlation between pasteurization of milk and antibiotic resistance. Because in international development, collecting data is nearly impossible. You go out to all these villages and you ask, hey, did you use the thermometer? And of course, what are they going to say? Yeah, I used the thermometer that you gave me.
Yeah, but can you document?
But can you document when they used it, how many times they used it, what the temperatures it reached.
To get accurate samples and results.
Exactly, and then be able to tie that to, an actual decrease in bacteria.
Well, speaking of going to these communities, another aspect of this story that I think is just fantastic through Washington State is not only did you have the opportunity to and have the ability to create this amazing tool, but you also had the opportunity to then go see it in action, field study in Tanzania, I believe.
Tanzania, yeah.
Yeah, so tell me about that, because I mean, not only, I think it would be fairly normal that somebody could come up with something, probably not to this extent because it's so impressive, but then you also went there to see how it actually worked and to interact with the people.
Absolutely. So before doing this project at all, I actually spent some time in Ghana. And so really being on the ground and getting to know the people is imperative. Like, you have to understand their pain points. You have to understand their everyday activities, how they're going to use this device. And just hearing about it isn't quite enough, because you might design the perfect tool for you and you get there and realize, oh, this clip won't fit on their pots and they're never going to use it.
And it could be as simple as
that, right? So we were able to go to Tanzania in January, last January, and it created a tight timeline for us because we didn't start working on the project probably till September. So we had from September to January to have a working prototype in hand. Neither of us are electrical engineers, so that was a challenge in itself. But we got the working prototype up and ready. We went to Tanzania and we were able to do some field testing. So we got to meet the Maasai villagers that they had been working with, understand how they pasteurize milk, how they harvest milk, how they handle their cattle. So that insight was really instrumental.
Were they open to communicating with you? You probably had an idea of initially the questions you wanted to ask of them to understand culturally and practically how they did do the pasteurization process, but were they open to you being there?
Absolutely, they were open to it. It's a very unique thing for us because the Maasai people are very hard to reach, actually. So if you're kind of don't have an in with them, then you're likely not going to get much from them. They're not going to open their homes to you. They're fairly private, and so luckily the Paul Allen School had an existing relationship with some Maasai villages. We had people on the ground there working that were willing to take us into their villages and translate for us, and everyone was very willing to share information. The first thing that happened when we got out of the car was, of course, they all wanted to sit under the tree and drink chai tea with us. And it was funny because I don't do dairy, and they make it with goat milk or cow milk. And so I took a sip and I was like, oh, I can't drink this. And they were so accommodating. They're like, oh, let us make you something different. We just
rather than offended.
Absolutely. We just want you to be comfortable. We want you to be welcome here.
Well, and through this idea that you created, what came out of that, and I believe with your colleague and partner in this venture, was a business, Kool-Aid LLC, right? Okay. Yeah. So tell me more about that, how you came to come up with that creative name, what that means. Yeah.
So for us, being intentional with everything we did was really important. We were involved in this entrepreneurship program, so absolutely we're looking to create a business out of it. But I'm driven more by the social side of things, so that was where my interest was. So it was a perfect kind of intersection of these two areas of interest. So when we were in Tanzania, we were really thinking, okay, what should we name this business? We had kind of a generic name just as a team name before that. But we started asking around. We started asking about their language and different words that they use, and we found the word Kool-Aid. And we kind of fell in love with it. It's catchy, it's short, it's simple.
It's a good ring to it.
Has a nice ring to it, and it means milk in Ma, the language of the Maasai people. And that's not necessarily just in Tanzania. So the Maasai population spread over multiple countries in Africa. And so we thought it was important, since that's where we started, that's kind of our home.
Yes, perfect.
To use that as our name as kind of a branding tool. And our logo is actually the brand that they use in the cheek of all the villages.
That's perfect.
So we wanted it to always be tied back, even if we grow or we move to other places, we're doing other things. That's where we started.
Yeah, the story of origin is fantastic.
Yeah.
And what do you think? Where do you see the business entity going over the next 4 or 5 years? Because we'll get to, you have plenty of things on your plate as to where you're going that might not necessarily be conducive to running a business, but where do you foresee it going in the next couple of years? Yeah,
so we actually shipped out 60 thermometers in May to Tanzania with our researcher, and he collected data all summer, and the data came back and looks really great. They have hard proof that antibiotic resistance decreased with pasteurization practices increasing. So that's really great news for us, because we can now go out to other funding sources and other resources and say, hey, look, we know this works. Now we just need to be able to implement in more places. So we're looking to additional funding sources to hopefully do a larger run before the end of the school year and get that out. sooner rather than later.
But you're right. You know, step one is, does it work?
Does it
and
work?
You've already proven
and
that
can you
it does
prove
work.
it? So like even if it works, you know, they want the numbers, they want the metrics, they want you to be able to say they used it this many times in this time period, and this is the result. So that was really great to hear that come back. It was really exciting after we kind of just like threw our babies out there and then waited until we heard something back.
Yeah. Well, and as you said, to get an accurate idea if it works in terms of gaining these samples and knowing that they are indeed accurate.
Yeah.
How do you believe that the entrepreneurial program and Carson College of Business, Washington State, was conducive to creating this opportunity for you? In terms of what maybe your expectations were coming to Washington State and then realizing someone like yourself could create these opportunities?
I think that I'm a unique case because I'm not just in the Carson College, but I also studied applied mathematics in the business college, and my partner is an engineer. So we kind of had our hands in a lot of different areas at the college, and we were really able to take advantage of all the resources that we could find. We had a ton of different experiences throughout campus to be able to draw from and make those connections and ask the right people. And I think that we were just amazed at how much support and how many resources were available to us.
Collaboration.
Yeah, all the collaboration, all of the people that were just willing to talk to us, to help us out, whatever they could do. So that was really awesome when we got down to things. I never really envisioned myself creating a business or designing a product. I chose to study entrepreneurship because I wanted a well-rounded business education. It wasn't about being an entrepreneur necessarily or owning my own business right away, but it was kind of a natural fit for me.
But you had the acumen that to put these pieces and variables together, the opportunity with your skills to make this happen. I want to talk a little bit more about that, but let's take a quick break and come right back. Thank you.
I'm Mike Marzetta from Mind's Eye. One of my life's goals is to never grow up, never have to grow up. What could be worse? My wife, Christy, and I had kind of two fundamental values that kind of led to Mind's Eye's creation. We wanted to make the difference in the lives of kids, and we wanted to have fun doing it. Mind's Eye Robotics is a high-quality, hands-on STEM education experience. We try to give the teacher a nice high-tech set of tools. We teach the teachers how to implement the curriculum in the lab, and 90% of it is them building, programming, formatting, designing, inventing. We want Mind's Eye to be cooler than Xbox. We want the kids to go there and come home from school every day and go, wow, I did the coolest thing today, and not necessarily know that they've learned all this stuff. Kids are very passionate about it. You can see that they're having fun, they're excited, they're energetic, they're in the zone. I hear a lot of it, how do I get my kids to do homework? Well, you make it fun, and they come in before class starts, and they stay late, and they're not thinking the extra credit. They're thinking, I'm having too much fun, and I can't put this dang project down. It's college level stuff that they're learning. Change and learning are synonymous, and if you don't change, you get left behind. You got new companies emerging using new technologies and have a high demand for high skilled labor. They're good paying jobs. It'd be great to just hire some local folk to fill those. I think that we've got that kind of potential here in Spokane. We're graduating some great kids. When STCU supports learning, they're supporting our future. So many other organizations out there are so bottom line profit focused. I think they lose focus on what's important. I see STCU helping the greater community outside of it to get better, to learn, to grow, and to progress. We're here to do good. We're here to help the greater good. We're very proud to be able to partner with STCU to that end. I think what is a better place to help the greater good than with helping kids? I'm Mike Marzetta, and STCU is here for good.
Welcome back to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNiece, and we're here in the studio with Annalise Miller. Thanks again for being here. Your story is fascinating to me, and right before we left for the break, we were talking about how an organization like WSU, Carson College of Business, can be conducive to someone like yourself that is bringing massive amounts of skill to the table. And you really do, I think, in everything you read about success stories, you have to have all of those elements. First of all, you have to have someone like yourself that has the initiative, that has the skills, and then you have to have the opportunity or the environment in which to make all that work. And that's what's interesting here is, I think as you're describing, the School of Business and Entrepreneurial Program had that vibe, or culture.
Absolutely.
So tell us more about the collaboration of, I guess, figuring out on campus that this existed.
So finding the Entrepreneurship Center was kind of a windy path a little bit. I started out as a international business major, or so I thought, I came in with my AA, so I kind of had to figure out where I wanted to be a little bit quickly.
Yeah.
And everywhere I looked, all the different business disciplines were just too specialized for me. I have varied interests. I like to do a lot of things. I didn't just want to be a marketing person or a finance person.
Or accounting.
I wanted more than that. I wanted to have a broader knowledge about business. And so I kind of fell into the entrepreneurship degree and said, this looks like the most well-rounded. I get a little bit of everything.
Creativity.
It's creative, and entrepreneurial mindset and entrepreneurial spirit are highly recruited for skills. So it couldn't be a bad degree to fall into, right?
Right.
And so the farther I got into my degree, I fell into the Harold Frank program as well. And so I got a little bit of an early jump start into the entrepreneurship ecosystem through that program.
How is that program differentiated from
the center?
Yes.
So the Harold Frank program is for business, engineering, and communication students. So anyone from those 3 disciplines can apply.
Okay.
And then about 15 students are picked each year to be part of the cohort, and they take essentially an entrepreneurship crash course their junior year. So a
Okay.
little bit before the rest of the entrepreneurship program would kind of be taking similar coursework. And then again, their senior year, it's a year-long class.
Okay.
So that kind of jump-started it. I knew a lot of people in the entrepreneurship degree because I was taking upper-level classes from the beginning. And so that started opening up my eyes to what's available, but I don't think I really understood the full resources that were in front of me until I got to my senior year, and I had dabbled here and there, and then I got to kind of see the big picture, and it kind of came full circle, and I could understand, where I needed to go, who I needed to talk to get what we were looking for.
And Annalise, I think that's an interesting point, because I think even as alumni, sometimes, unfortunately, you don't realize the breadth of resources available at an institution like Washington State until after the fact. I was a finance major and very complimentary of the program, but looking back, you're like, wow, there's just so many resources at a university of that stature.
Absolutely, and that's what I tell all the underclassmen. I'm like, please ask me questions if you want to know how to get something that you're looking for. If I don't know, I might be able to point you to the right person, because I spent 4 years figuring it out, and now I'm done.
You don't have to spend 4 years
so
figuring it out.
I don't want you to have to spend 4 years finding what I spent 4 years looking for. Someone should take advantage of the knowledge I've gained.
Yeah, one of my favorite lines is, if you're wondering what the path looks like up ahead, ask somebody coming back down the path. And I think it's what you're describing, that, hey, don't recreate the wheel. Ask me. I've been through it.
Absolutely.
Well, this certainly has led to some great opportunities. Let's talk about the fact that, and it was kind of up in the air this spring this fall, as to what you might do in the next 2 years, next year, after graduation, after these amazing opportunities. Peace Corps was one of those major opportunities, and you've decided to do that. Tell us where that's going to lead you. Tell us about that, how you came to want to do that.
So I've always talked about Peace Corps. I've always kind of toyed with the idea. About 85% of people working in the international development field are returned Peace Corps alum, and so it's a huge network. It's a great foot in the door in a lot of places, and just the experience alone is life-changing. People come back with totally different outlooks. They think they want to do one thing, and they realize, their heart's somewhere else. And so I really wanted that experience. I wanted to be on the ground. I wanted to be able to interact with the people and really understand at the base level before I tried to work somewhere in the States and do something where you can't really understand the context.
Right.
And so I've toyed with the idea, but it's a big commitment. So over the 4 years, it was something that I really had to think about a lot. And then my senior year, I was like, all right, I'm going to do the application, and if other things pan out, then that's that. But I might as well go for it. My interest was really in entrepreneurship and small businesses, and so there's a select few places within Peace Corps that does that. And so I applied specifically to Namibia, and they only leave every April. So even though I graduated in May, I couldn't apply to leave until, I applied early, but I wouldn't leave until the following April. And so I submitted my application, and they said, okay, well, you could wait 6 months to hear anything.
Right.
Because I submitted it so early. And then I got an email that says, hey, we want to interview you. So I did the interviews, and that went really well. And they said, hey, you might have to wait another 6 months before you hear anything from us. Don't freak out. Okay, great. I'm just going to sit here and wait for 6 months.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to freak out. I just don't know what I'm doing for 6 months.
Not freaking out at all. I'm just, hanging out.
And let's be honest, you're a pretty driven individual. So 6 months of, hey, I don't know, isn't your style.
That's a long time to wait. And so I wasn't expecting to hear anything. I was working on a different project at the university over the summer. And one day in the middle of my work day, I checked my phone, and I had an email from them. And I was like, that's odd. And I opened the email, and I kind of had a little freak out because I didn't expect to hear so early.
Right.
And they give you 3 days to
They're going to take 6
respond.
months potentially, but then they give you 3 days.
They give you 3 days to say yes or no. And if you miss the 3 days, sucks to be you.
Wow.
Apply again
You're
next
at the end of the
time.
list.
And so I accepted the position with the idea that I could always, decide I didn't want to go as
Sure.
a volunteer position. But, that's somewhat of a commitment that, okay,
Oh,
this is something I'm really
absolutely.
interested in. They only have 15 spots every year. It's the most competitive sector within Peace Corps.
Well, and I wanted to touch on that a little bit more because you did specify kind of that nuance that this is a specific division of Peace Corps. So if some of our listeners are thinking just generically Peace Corps in of itself, the organization, tell us a little bit more of why this is so specific.
Yeah, so Peace Corps has 5 or 6 different sectors, I believe, whether it's agriculture, health, community economic development, et cetera. So the community economic development business side is the most competitive sector, and within that, there are specific positions. So there's, business teachers, there's other areas within business that they have volunteers, but then there's the entrepreneurship and small enterprise advising position, which is only in Namibia, actually. And so this position is really interfacing with the local businesses, understanding the business environment around you and kind of fostering those relationships and helping
Okay.
those businesses along. They offer 15 positions in Namibia each year. So that's 15
Total.
volunteers total. And that's
Good
it.
for you. Congratulations.
Thank you. And so it's very competitive, but every time I talked to a recruiter, they saw that I had a math degree and they said, "Hey, do you want to teach math?" No, not really.
Yeah.
I'm sure I could do that.
Great
but
asset to have, but not necessarily your interest.
Exactly,
at
not
that
something
level.
I want to do in the future. So why spend 2 years doing that when I think my skills could be better utilized elsewhere? And I said, no, I want to go for the competitive position. I think that I have a shot, and I guess I did.
You did.
Which is great. So I leave in April.
That's fantastic. What are your living accommodations going to look like? Do they give you very much information on that?
Not exactly.
Okay, so another unknown.
Another unknown. There's a lot of uncertainties.
Okay.
You spend 3 months training, and then they send you out to your site. So you don't actually know where in the country you'll be until you've been there for 3 months. And
Wow.
then you find out whether you're going to be living in a village in the middle of nowhere or in a city or a town or what those living accommodations will be like.
So a true leap of faith.
Absolutely.
Well, you mentioned it a little bit ago when you talked about the value and the perspective of you coming back after an experience, well, the experiences you've already had, but the Peace Corps as well. You're going to come back to whatever occupation or endeavor that you decide to move forward with a totally different perspective,
Absolutely.
invaluable perspective.
And what's funny is a lot of returned Peace Corps volunteers actually become entrepreneurs and start their own businesses. There's
Yeah, what did you
numerous
say?
cases.
What did you say that statistic was in terms of Peace Corps individuals coming back?
85% of them are in international development field, or 85% of the field is made up of returned
Okay.
Peace Corps volunteers. So the network is huge.
Yeah.
There's a lot of CEOs. I mean, the founder of Netflix came up with the idea while he was serving in the Peace Corps.
You're next.
We'll see.
But you've already come up with some great ideas already.
Yeah, and so me and actually another colleague of mine who is also going into the Peace Corps in a different country in June have always toyed with the idea of starting a business when we get back, and I'm sure it's something we'll always toy with. I don't know if that's the first thing I'll do when I get back. Maybe, spend some time enjoying hot showers. And
Yeah, well, and a part of that, you already have Kool-Aid Tech LLC that you've created, so that's going to be something to that probably will require deciding what direction you want to go with that, amongst many other opportunities. What do you feel about your experience at Washington State in terms of you're quite worldly at this point and will continue to be, but spent 4 years in Pullman, Washington. What do you think about that? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages, if there are any?
Yeah, so I didn't want to go to Pullman at all. It was probably my last choice of colleges, the ones I applied to. I wanted to be in the city, or so I thought. I wanted to be somewhere where there was a lot going on at a small school. So I ended up in the middle of nowhere.
At
a big school.
At a fairly large school.
But it's,
Ironies.
Right? It couldn't have been a better decision, though. I think that Pullman gives you a lot of perspective, different perspective than you probably have ever had. You're isolated geographically, but there are so many opportunities, and it's such a diverse place that I think it breeds open-mindedness. It fosters so much research and curiosity, and it really forces you to look inward and say, okay, what is it that I want? Where am I going?
Right.
What's important to me?
Introspective.
And not get caught up in all the other things that are around
Mm-hmm.
you.
I think that isolation creates some of that collaboration. That what else are you going to do, so to speak?
But get to know everyone.
Get to know whoever's in your program or otherwise, or cross into other diverse groups.
And I think the other unique thing about WSU, especially for high achieving students like myself, those opportunities exist at other colleges. I'm sure they do. But you might have to fight a lot harder to get them. And there's going to be less support, I would say, because Cougs help Cougs. Cougs are always there to do whatever they can to make it work for you, whether it's a fellow Coug that started his own business or someone in the industry that you're looking to go into. They're always there looking out for you.
Right.
And
the Alumni Association, I think Cougs First is another one that's fantastic.
Exactly. And so I think that opportunity coming to WSU is one I wouldn't have found anywhere else.
Well, like we both said at the top of the show, once a Coug, always a Coug. A lot of pride there. Apple Cup was a little rough.
It was rough, but you know what? I still love them.
That's right. And great opportunities. Annalise, I hope you'll continue to come back into the studio. Your story is just going to unfold, I think, by the chapter. I talked to you, several months back and was hearing a portion of your story, and it just continues to get more and more interesting. And I think for me it is so encouraging to see folks coming out of the collegiate level or otherwise of your age that are accomplishing such amazing things and such amazing curiosity and passion. So thank you. Keep up the good work, and please come back.
I would love to come back. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Business Talks is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU and Well Dressed Walrus. Business Talks wishes you good business and a good day.
Hi, this is Kurt Stockwell with Well Dressed Walrus. We are a local website design and development company here in Spokane. What we do is build beautiful, usable websites for local businesses. A website needs to be beautiful, it needs to be usable for your users, your customers, and yourself. Contact us anytime. We'd love to talk with you about your online marketing.
The economy is getting stronger. Banks are lending again, and interest rates are at historic lows. Now is a great time to buy your dream home. The caring and knowledgeable professionals at Homes for You have been helping people just like you for over 20 years. They take the time to listen to what you want and will help you find just the right home in Washington or Idaho. Real estate is what we do at Homes for You, 928-5782, or visit online at homes4uspokane.com.